The industry's habit of training by accident. One of the strongest beliefs behind 3C squared is that restaurant training is too often left to chance. A new employee is paired with someone who happens to be good at the job. That employee may be skilled, fast, experienced, and dependable. But none of those qualities automatically mean the person knows how to teach. The trainer may not want the responsibility. The trainer may have never been trained to train. The trainer may skip steps because they are obvious to someone with years of experience. The trainer may teach personal shortcuts. The trainer may become frustrated when the new employee does not understand immediately. The trainer may explain one version of the job while another trainer explains something completely different the next day. The trainee is expected to assemble the pieces. That is not onboarding. That is a scavenger hunt with consequences. I experienced the restaurant industry's unwritten language myself. While working at Mike Gordon's Seafood in Miami, I encountered the phrase, "in the weeds," while returning to service after time away. People inside restaurants may use that expression so naturally that they forget it had to be learned at some point. Restaurant environments are filled with language, rhythms, procedures, signals, and expectations that experienced employees stop noticing. A new person may not know what "in the weeds" means. They may not know when to call behind or corner. They may not know which manager has authority. They may not know how the restaurant distinguishes an allergy from a preference. They may not know what information belongs in pre-shift. They may not know whether they are allowed to solve a guest problem. They may not know what a trainer considers obvious. When an organization does not explain its language, it quietly punishes people for not already belonging. That is not a failure of intelligence. It is a failure of training. This is one of the reasons 3C squared exists. To make the invisible visible. The lessons hidden inside mistakes. Restaurants are live environments. They are filled with heat, movement, noise, pressure, emotion, and variables that cannot be completely controlled. Mistakes will happen. I know this not only from watching others, but from living through my own mistakes. There was an incident involving a tray, clarified butter, and a guest wearing khaki trousers who tried to help. The situation went wrong quickly. Moments like that stay with a person because they strip away the illusion that experience makes anyone incapable of error. Experience does not eliminate mistakes. It changes what we are able to learn from them. A restaurant can treat a mistake as a reason to blame someone, or it can treat the mistake as information. What was unclear? What was rushed? What assumption was made? What part of the environment contributed? What should the employee do differently? What should the system do differently? What does the guest need now? What must be taught so the same problem is less likely to happen again? That is the difference between punishment and learning. It is also the difference between a restaurant that repeats the same failures and one that improves. My career taught me that the true test of hospitality is not whether everything goes perfectly. The true test is what happens after something does not. Does the employee hide? Does the manager blame? Does the kitchen become defensive? Does the guest have to ask repeatedly? Does the team argue about fault while the experience continues to deteriorate? Or does someone take ownership? Does someone communicate clearly? Does someone correct the problem and follow through? That is care. That is connection. And when the organization has prepared people to respond that way consistently, that is culture. Communication is not complete until it is understood. Another personal lesson came through regional language. A misunderstanding involving the word pop showed me that people can use familiar language and still fail to communicate. The person speaking may believe the message is perfectly clear. The person listening may understand something entirely different. Both may walk away assuming communication has occurred. Restaurants operate inside that gap every day. A server may believe a ticket is clear. A cook may read it differently. A manager may believe an expectation was explained. An employee may have heard only part of it. A guest may ask a question using words that mean something different to the employee. A host may tell a server that a table is almost ready, while the server believes that means something else entirely. Communication is not complete when words leave one person's mouth. Communication is complete when the correct information reaches the correct person, is understood accurately, produces the correct action, and is followed through. This became the connection pillar of 3C squared. Connection is not limited to friendliness. It includes listening, confirmation, emotional awareness, timing, tone, shared language, and understanding. Connection is what prevents a restaurant from becoming a collection of people talking past one another. When my own memory could no longer be the only storage place. Before the accident, I could depend more heavily on what I carried in my mind. I had accumulated patterns from decades of work. I could compare one situation with another, recognize warning signs, retrieve examples, and connect an immediate problem to a much longer history. After the accident, I became more aware that memory cannot be the only storage place for important work. I did not want my knowledge to exist only in my ability to recall it. I needed to write it down. I needed to organize it. I needed to build frameworks. I needed to create tools. I needed to name the principles I had used instinctively. I needed to transform experience into a system. At first, this was personal. I was building a way to protect what I knew. But the more I worked, the more I realized the same system could protect restaurants. A written training program protects the organization when an experienced trainer leaves. A clear job description protects the new employee from guessing. A scorecard protects standards from becoming vague. An observation rubric protects evaluations from becoming personal opinion. A diagnostic protects the owner from treating symptoms instead of causes. A communication audit protects the guest from information being lost between departments. A service culture recovery plan protects the team from repeating damage without understanding it. A trainer certification protects new employees from receiving a different version of the job depending on who happens to teach them. What I needed for myself, the industry needed too. A reliable place where knowledge could live outside one person's memory. Why the company is called 3C squared. The three central principles of the company are care, connection, and culture. These words are simple, but the system behind them is not. They represent the three conditions I believe every restaurant needs if it wants hospitality to become dependable. Care is the beginning. It is the decision to pay attention. It is noticing a guest before the guest waves for help. It is recognizing that a coworker is overwhelmed. It is preparing a station before service. It is protecting food quality and safety. It is understanding that details matter because people experience those details. Care is responsibility in action. Without care, service becomes mechanical. The employee may complete the task, but remain emotionally absent from its effect. Connection turns action into understanding. It is the greeting that makes a guest feel acknowledged. It is the question asked carefully enough to uncover what the guest actually needs. It is the server confirming the allergy. It is the cook asking for clarification instead of guessing. It is the manager listening before correcting. It is the front of the house and the back of the house recognizing that they serve the same guest. Without connection, people may work beside one another without working together. Culture is what makes the first two repeatable. Culture is the collection of behaviors the organization teaches, models, reinforces, rewards, corrects, and allows. A restaurant may say it values care, but if employees are rushed through training, care is not part of the culture. A restaurant may say it values connection, but if managers communicate through humiliation or fear, connection is not part of the culture. A restaurant may say it values hospitality, but if the guest experience depends on one extraordinary server, hospitality is not yet part of the culture. Culture is what survives the shift change. Culture is what remains when the strongest employee is not working. Culture is the difference between a good intention and an organizational standard. The company is called 3C Squared because care, connection, and culture do not merely sit beside one another. They strengthen one another. Care without connection may remain a private intention. Connection without culture may depend on individual personality. Culture without care may become rigid procedure. When all three work together, hospitality becomes something stronger than any one employee.